Hey guys, welcome back to the Victim or Villain podcast. I'm super excited because I have a friend who also got a cease and desist letter. And if you've been following the show, you know that I started my podcast because a dumbass man-child tried to legally shut me up by giving me a cease and desist letter. I didn't do it. And now I have a friend who also got a cease and desist letter, and he actually really needs no introduction because everyone knows who he is. He's a political strategist, a big-time political consultant in Chicago. I personally use all of his maps and his data to help with my clients. And so we're really excited to have Frank Calabrese here today on the Victim or Villain podcast. Welcome to the show.
Thanks. I'm a huge fan. I got the cease and desist letter and I immediately thought of you.
I am glad that's what people think of when they get their cease and desist letter. We actually framed it for you.
Yes, I appreciate we went.
Yeah, so let's show that to the cameras.
Yeah.
If I can get that real quick.
All
so
right, here
this is Frank's cease and desist letter. We made sure we got him a nice frame for it. I kind of did a little ghetto, but regardless, we're going to get it fixed and get it right for him.
Yours is much nicer.
Yeah, so mine
Yours
is right
matted
here. So we are
professional
cease and desist twins. When I heard what happened with you, it was ridiculous. And I want us to kind of like talk about that a little bit. We're not going to go too much into it because there's so much more important things I want us to also talk about. But there is this culture where if you speak out against elected officials or politicians or anyone that's running for office, you get this immediate target on your back. When in reality, our job as constituents is to call out if someone is doing something that's inappropriate or if they are not doing what's best for the actual people. And there is this culture of silence that's been created where you can't speak up, right?
Okay.
And so I want you to kind of talk about what happened, why you got a cease and desist letter, and what's just going on with the situation.
This is actually my first ever cease and desist.
First ever.
Yeah.
I've gotten a couple of them in my life. Nothing ever happens, but yeah, go ahead.
This is my first ever one. Yeah, someone wanted to run for mayor early on. I never heard of them or met them, and then they called me and said, "Oh yeah, if anyone want to run for mayor, you want my ideas, I'm happy to talk with you." They had a very different view on how to win for mayor than what I thought the facts support. I think Chicago is a overwhelmingly Democratic, fairly liberal city.
Yeah.
And it's very hard, I think, to win a majority of the vote if you don't align with the views of the majority of the city. So it didn't work out. And then the candidate's John Kelly. And then he announces, and then he kind of works with all these Trump and MAGA influencers.
I saw that.
Yeah. And so it was like the Federalist CEO, I think his name's Sean Davis, Jack Posobiec, and like all these huge MAGA accounts. Dan, the former deputy FBI director under Trump, they're all like,
Borgino?
Yeah, Borgino. Yeah, you're better Italian names than me. Yeah. And then they're like, yeah, we need John Kelly. We need to fix Chicago. We need John Kelly in that terrible liberal Democratic city.
Isn't he a Democrat on paper?
Yeah. So John, again, I only work for Democrats, and so.
Yeah.
On paper, he's a Democrat. He's given millions of dollars to Democrats over the years because he's a lobbyist and he works with Democrats. His wife, who is very public and active, she's a Republican, and I guess they have that type of relationship. But he said he's a Democrat in his commercial, even though the commercial had all Republican talking points. Right? The commercial, Chicago is a dangerous city. It doesn't work. We have to stop teen takeovers. It's just kind of like the talking points of someone that doesn't live in the city, someone that, using conservative right-wing Republican talking points to talk about Chicago. Getting on the L train, which I use every day, is like a dangerous act. Now, of course, we have to improve our systems and stuff. But it's, again, if you go on the L train, you're not risking your life every time. It's a right-wing stereotype of Chicago.
So his wife has over 1 million followers on Twitter, and she's known for being a January 6th insurrectionist, supporter of them, correct?
Yeah, she's written a book about it, and she's very vocal. She was tweeting that she was on the phone with President Trump regarding the pardons of all the January 6th rioters or protesters, or however you want to categorize them. But that's a big issue. She's the category killer in that per se. She's very big on the January 6th rioters, that they were somehow innocent. I haven't read her book, so I don't know the theory. She thinks they're innocent.
And this would be technically the first lady of Chicago if they were to win, because right now they're leading in terms of fundraising. He's the second highest fundraiser right now.
Yeah, so he has an amazing fundraising network because his background as a lobbyist for large companies. Some of his clients are like Bally's Casino, like the United Center. Through his network, he has the ability to raise a lot of money through either clients or friends of clients, or so he has a tremendous network for that. And he's raised, I think, almost $2.5 million or something, and he reported $2 million in his bank account. As the person with the most money is Alexi Giannulli. I think
Correct.
he has about $22 million.
Yeah.
But John Kelly has more money than other established candidates like Susana Mendoza. She's at $1.5 million. So he has significantly more money than her, considering he's not an elected official, and Mendoza's been an elected official for as long as I can remember.
And his plan is to, from what I'm seeing, just off of social media and what they've been posting, his plan is to run as a MAGA Republican, but he's masquerading as a Democrat.
I mean,
that's what I've seen. That's what it looks like.
You could say the opposite too, that he's a MAGA Republican masquerading as a Democrat, or a Democrat masquerading as Republican. It's kind of hard to tell because on social media, like how they portrayed themselves is a conservative message. And there's a lot of funny interactions online. You have these right-wing influencers promoting John Kelly, and then some of their followers are like, why are you promoting a Democrat? He's a Democrat. And then the influencer says, I don't believe he's a Democrat because he's married to Julie Kelly. Right. Julie Kelly would never marry a Democrat because she's a hardcore Republican. So there is a lot of confusion of, is he a Republican? Is he a Democrat? What are his values?
It just sounds like they're grifters to me, to be honest with you. That's not something you have to agree with, but it seems like people hop onto different trends that they see are popular, populist movements, right? And then they go with that, not really fully believing in it. And it's so funny because out of the two MAGA candidates, I think Danielle Carter actually has a much stronger chance of winning than John Kelly does. So, not that I don't think either one of them has a chance of winning, but I think out of them two, Danielle seems to have way more traction, just based on what I'm seeing, has way more traction than John Kelly does.
So I don't know Danielle, but I know someone that works with her really well.
Yeah.
And so I follow her a little bit online, and she'll have events with 40, 50 people showing up.
Yeah.
And again, there is a lot more established mayor candidates that do not have that big of a crowd. I think she's going to make the ballot because she has a lot of volunteers. She lacks money, but she's kind of very authentic.
Yeah.
I think she definitely has a lot of support that online and in real life. She's a big factor, I think. Is she going to be the next mayor? Very unlikely. But is she doing a good job at getting her name out there and connecting with people? Because there's certainly, obviously, Chicago is 85%, 90% Democratic, overwhelmingly Democratic city. But again, Republicans and conservatives, they exist in Chicago. And I think she's doing a decent job of connecting with them.
It's funny because she went from being a public commentator to now running for mayor. And it's like, I was there when they would come out. And so I've seen the transition where when they first started coming and speaking, they were not Chicago Flips Red. And then all of a sudden, a lot of the different, I don't know if they knew each other before, and that's something I'm very curious. I've actually invited Danielle to come on the show.
She should do it.
I want her to come on the show because
she should do it.
I don't agree with a lot of her politics or her policies, but she's so fascinating to me. Her and Zoe and Jessica Jackson are all very fascinating to me because of the way that, again, I don't agree with a lot of their stances on things, but they've created this movement that I think not many people have been able to create. I think a part of it is because of like how loud their messaging has been and how consistent they've been. I think it originally started off as people were saying, oh, they're just getting paid to be there. I don't know if they are or if they're not, but they've been incredibly consistent with being there and showing up. So I don't know. I'm curious about them. I think that they have definitely created a movement, and I don't know if it translates into anything, but it has been very interesting to see.
And they've made a national name for themselves. They appear on national media. I've seen them on Fox News. I'm sure
Trump has tweeted out about them.
Yeah. Trump, when he made a reference to, I believe, beautiful African-American women. I think that's a quote he said.
Yeah. Danielle's gorgeous. I get it.
She's gorgeous. Yeah. And so, so they've made a national name for themselves. And like I said, like I respect good game. And so they're, like, in terms of their publicity, they've done an amazing job.
It'll be interesting to see if they make the ballot or not. Do you think John Kelly makes the ballot?
If you have $2 million and again, signatures have changed over the years. So, signatures 15, 20 years ago was very focused on like award organizations, labor. Basically, you wouldn't have to pay to get on the ballot per se. Yeah. All right, I have enough political support through these organizations. Now it's more pay to get on, right?
Yeah.
It's just an expense. Like, all right, you want to be a candidate for mayor, it's going to cost $5 signature times $20,000.
Yeah, that's crazy.
And so it's more of just a transactional thing. It's almost more of a function of fundraising than actual support.
Yeah.
Again, it did start out as award organizations coming through, getting signatures. You still have that. For example, for Brandon Johnson, I'm positive all of them in there supporting him, and the unions or probably the union that's supporting him at this point, they're going to get signatures, and they're probably not getting paid. Same thing with Alexi Janulius. There's probably like some of the labor unions are going to get signatures. But someone like John Kelly, I think he's going to lean more into the paid program.
Yeah.
And it's not his fault. It's just kind of how things have evolved over the years.
And you're no longer with the campaign anymore?
No, yeah.
Okay. And a part of the reason for that was, do you want to talk about that?
Again, so they sent me a cease and desist saying, I can't talk about internal campaign things. So, yeah, I want to respect that because I did agree to that. But I'm allowed to talk about anything public.
Yeah.
I made that very explicit. But just in general, I just think that someone that aligns themselves with the president, Trump, or with, Make America Great Again kind of slogans or influencers just cannot win in the city of Chicago. And
they didn't like that you said that.
I'm not going to comment on that.
Got
But
it.
I will say that, and it's just not my opinion, it's just like how the data is. If you look at the March election, the candidate that really overperformed the most, in my opinion, was like Juliana Stratton. She was doing okay in the polls or below Raja. And then just in the last 6 weeks, she just skyrocketed because she found her groove in saying, I hate Trump in the most absolute terms. She used swear words, obviously. And that was her campaign message. Now, a lot of people think, well, that's not that campaign message doesn't have a lot of depth, but it connected with voters. And again, it's just not Juliana Stratton campaigns. You just kind of see that throughout the country that it's probably not for the best, but it's just the truth. Trump's going to be the number one issue because that's what's on the minds of your average voter.
Yeah.
Now, should it be about pensions or financial issues with the city? That would be ideal. But in terms of your average median voter that's voting, Trump's going to be on their mind just because Trump kind of makes himself the number one issue.
See, that's the thing. I feel like candidates need to get away from just talking about Trump because, like, for the everyday person, Trump is not a factor, right? He is, but he isn't. And I get so turned off when candidates just talk about Trump. I'm just like, okay, we have Trump because the Democratic Party made their entire platform about we need to get rid of Trump and didn't have anything of actual substance to provide to voters. Where Trump was talking about, hey, he didn't do it, but he was talking about making groceries affordable. He was talking about immigration. He was talking about topics that his voting base actually cared about. Now, did he actually make life more affordable for people? No. It's probably the most expensive right now it's ever been.
You're making a really good point. So Trump, in the last election in Chicago, got 20%.
Yeah.
And he started out in 2016 at 12%. In 2022, he got 16%. So he almost doubled his percentage from 2016 to 2024. And the reason he was able to do that, in my opinion, is because his numbers went up, not on the north side or traditional Republican areas, but they went up the most in minority areas.
Yeah.
In Black wards, in Latino wards. He got a third of the vote in Little Village, the 22nd ward.
Crazy.
For comparison, in Lincoln Park, which is one of the 43, which is one of the richer, whiter wards, he only got 21%. So he did connect with traditional Democratic voters, minority voters, at a real level because he did talk about issues that connected with them.
Populist issue, yeah.
And my personal take on Democrats is I understand you have to do the Trump is bad thing because that's what the polls say. That's kind of what the recent elections kind of show. But you also need to talk about issues that affect real people.
Yeah.
And I 100% agree. In 2024, Kamala Harris, Trump. Kamala Harris was their campaign trying to make Trump to be like some sort of un-American evil figure. And at the end of the day, voters in swing states didn't buy that. And Trump won all the swing states. And that's a big deal. So I do agree that I think the Democratic Party should focus more on real life issues as opposed to Trump. At the same time, that's what the scientific polling tells us is that voters, when they go vote, they're like, I don't like Trump or I like Trump. And that kind of motivates a lot of voters, unfortunately.
Yeah. Where do you think this mayoral election goes? Who do you think wins?
So, right now, the buzz in the media is that Alexis Giannoulis is the front runner. I agree with that. He kind of, in terms of political support, obviously money's not everything, but it's a factor much more than anyone else. And also just kind of like general vibes. I think he's doing a decent job. That being said, the front runners in 2019 and 2023, it ended badly for them.
Yeah.
So in 2019, Bill Daley, the ultimate insider guy, right? So he was chief of staff for Obama. He was commerce secretary for Clinton. Obviously, I don't need to tell you that his brother and his father were the mayor of Chicago.
Didn't even make the runoff.
Right? So, and it wasn't just him. Toni Prettwinkle did make the runoff. She faced Lori Lightfoot. She lost all 50 wards.
Yeah.
Really crazy. So, and then 2023, if you asked me August before the election, I would be like, yeah, I think Chuy Garcia is in a decent position. Chuy Garcia got 4th place.
Yeah.
And then Lori Lightfoot, a lot of people thought she was going to make the runoff. She didn't make the runoff.
Yeah.
And I thought people thought that they were more of early frontrunners than Brandon Johnson and Paul Vallis. So I think it's fair to say, and it'd be hard for anyone to disagree with this. Alexis Giannoulis is the front runner.
Yes, I agree.
But that does not mean he wins. Doesn't even mean he makes the runoff.
No, because everyone's going to be pouncing on him. That's the problem with also being like the front runner. Is you're the front runner, everyone's going to be attacking you, and then other people can be quietly building their campaigns and building momentum behind the scenes. And that's literally what happened with Lori. And I remember when the shift happened, because we had did a poll in the 4th ward, and we seen Brandon was actually in 2nd place. And I remember we were at the Arab American Democracy Club breakfast, and Brandon was sitting next to me. And I actually showed him the poll, and I was like, hey, do you know you're like in 2nd place in the 4th ward? And he was like, wait, what? He took a picture of it. He sent it to someone, I'm guessing someone from his campaign staff. And this was like it was in January? It was when...
That's where, I remember this very vividly. So in late January, that's where numbers really ramped up.
But he had also the most momentum, like from a social media perspective, which social media does not equate votes. But from a social media perspective, he had the most momentum of people that were excited about him.
I remember that campaign so well. So in 2019, I would say Twitter's not real life.
Yeah.
But 2023, I thought kind of Twitter was real life because the momentum I saw on social media really did translate the votes.
Yeah.
So on Northside progressives, there was a lot of talk about Chuy Garcia being kind of like the sellout progressive.
Yeah.
I don't mean that as an insult to him, but that just kind of was the vibe. So Chuy Garcia was the progressive standard bearer in 2015. But then when he ran again, the progressives kind of weren't with him. And I don't think he won a single precinct on the North Side, if I remember. And those North Side progressive liberal voters, they went to Brandon. And Chuy Garcia, when he first started out, I think he was counting on that North Side progressive vote. And they're like, they just didn't think he was authentic for whatever reason. And then with Brandon. And again, I saw that on social media first. And then on election day, translated in the votes.
Yeah. And there's a lot of discussions if Brandon's even going to run. I believe he's going to be running. I think they're going to use social media, and they're going to try to mimic some of what Amdani and Abdul Saeed just did. We're getting a lot of social media influencers to start pushing their agenda, which I feel like is very disingenuous to do that. I don't like that. I get it, but it's like, as an incumbent, you should be focused more on actual Chicago folks and changing their minds instead of trying to, because a lot of the support that Brandon gets, if you actually go through some of the comments and then you click on the profiles, it's not people from Chicago. And so it'll be interesting to see if that translates to actual votes.
Yeah, I hear this a lot. I had a good friend call me today about it, that, there's an influencer saying this about this and that. There's a lot of debate online right now about the school board budget.
Yeah.
And there's some influencers saying that it's a good thing they passed this budget, and obviously other people saying the opposite. We've entered in this new age where television commercials matter less, mail matters less, and it's how people react online to things. Again, New York's a good example. I think that Cuomo had essentially as much money as he wanted or needed, but he didn't really go anywhere. I don't think Mandami ever had a significant money advantage. And then you look locally, Raja. So Raja had, again, if you have all the PACs, it's kind of hard to add his money up because there's so many outside PACs. But let's say 60 million. We'll just say that's a lot of money. All right. And he was essentially on TV for 8 months, and Juliana Stratton was on TV just for the last maybe 6 weeks, maybe 8 weeks, and not as big as Raja. But again, Juliana Stratton, not only she won, but she won big, especially when you look in Chicago. I think Raja only won 5 or 6 wards, and Juliana Stratton obviously won the remainder, 44, 45 wards. So we've entered in this new age for people like consultants, I guess, for like us. It's just what's on TV. Commercials matter less. Just paid media matters less. Earned media matters more. Buzz and social media matters more. And it's been trending this way for a while, but I think we're now firmly in a different era where paid media just doesn't have the return on investment anymore.
I think there's also so much distrust in politicians and government in general, where people are looking to their peers, their friends. Hey, if you're supporting this person, I trust you enough to vote for that person. I want to finish off with the school budget because there's so much drama right now that's happening with that. Speaker Welch mentioned that he did not commit to that $150 million, which was accounted for in the CPS budget. Now people are saying that, hey, this is actually people are going to lose their jobs because of this. What's your take on that? And do you really believe that CPS screwed up with this budget?
Yes, I have a lot of friends on both sides of this issue. There's a lot of concern about what's going to happen next because it's very apparent, I think, by Speaker Welch's comments and just by kind of reality, the state's not going to come in and save the day. And even if they did come in and save the day, that would be money for a future school year, not the current school year. So we have this budget that is going to be unbalanced, and that means there's going to be layoffs.
Because the CPS lawyer said the budget was illegal, if I remember correctly.
Yeah, so this is... So the budget they voted for, from my understanding, is just going to result in layoffs, right? Just because, number one, I don't think the state has the ability to fund something for the school year. And through Speaker Welch's comments and just through kind of reality in Springfield, right? As Chicago is not half the population, it's 20% of the population. And there's a big divide within the Democratic caucus between Chicago legislators who tend to be more progressive and et cetera, and suburban legislators who might be more moderate. And you probably know the money has run out in terms of all the COVID extra money that was going to states and government. And obviously we have a Republican president, not a Democratic president. So it's just tougher on the state government budget in general. Unfortunately, I think there's going to be layoffs of teachers, more so that they pass the unbalanced budget than a budget that would anticipate these structural financial issues.
But Superintendent King said that there's not going to be any layoffs.
Under her budget, like that she was proposing. So she did not advocate for the budget that was passed.
Oh, she wasn't in support of that?
No, yeah. So she advocated for the budget. So from my understanding is that the budget that she advocated for, there was going to be cuts, but then people would be rehired at a very high rate. And again, the reality is that the student population, I believe I saw the number like 60,000 less students over the last decade.
Wow.
So it's just, I'm of the belief that you have to have public schools be really focused on children. And sometimes I look at these schools and there's schools that are designed for hundreds of students, but they only serve 50 students, right? And is that a good atmosphere for students when you have large schools serving small student populations? So there's just going to have to be efficiencies looked at, Chicago Public Schools. I have a lot of friends in the school board, and one of them was on WTTW, and she said, I didn't come here to cut jobs, which I understand that. That's a very tough decision, but also the taxpayers, when you pay your tax bill, about 45% of that goes to the Chicago Public Schools. So it's a very significant part. When people pay their taxes, they think, I'm funding the police or this and that. No. It's a portion of it.
You're funding pensions and schools.
Obviously, the police are part of it, but schools is by far the largest portion. When we talk about property taxes and school budgets, they kind of go hand in hand. And it's very tough. Obviously, eventually, one way or another, there's going to be people at CPS are going to lose their job because a friend uses the term, the math isn't mathing, right?
Yeah.
Just like the budget situation, the financial situation of CPS is just really out of whack. And there's just going to have to be eventually some sort of serious reset in how they start spending money there.
Do you support them shutting down schools that are?
So it's going to have to be done in a way where it's a lot of community input, right?
Yeah.
I've looked into this actually. I don't think it makes sense for anyone to man a school designed for 1,000 kids and then 60 kids are there. Or
Yeah.
something. So you just, again, you have to put the taxpayers and the students first. And then I think the jobs, you have to come after that.
Yeah.
Now, jobs are important, but again, like having government funded jobs, that does not drive the economy. You know what I mean? It's important that I think CPS have a system that's just fair for everyone, students, the employees, and the taxpayers. So.
Oh, for sure. Thank you for being on.
Thanks.
We'll definitely have you on as the
Yeah.
election season
Definitely.
continues. Thank you so much for being on. Thank you guys for tuning in. Make sure you follow us on all social media platforms, Victim or Villain Podcast. Thank you.